Everyone. I really appreciate everyone showing up today and coming to watch the screening of my documentary New Roots. This is my partner Jessica here with me today as well. First of all, I want to thank Natalie and Corrine with Cranbrook History Center and with Wildsight for helping me put this event on, just helping it reach more people as well. I really appreciate their help with this and their participation in it. Yeah, it's very valuable to me. I appreciate it. So to start with, a little bit about me for those of you who don't know me. If you look at my website, there really isn't a lot of food-related things in it. I tend to focus mostly on outdoor sports, environmental, couple of social issue things. But to be honest, food for me has been really important, especially in the years following high school graduation. One of my first jobs outside of high school, I took a job at the Keg because I wanted to eat steak nonstop. Yeah, I wanted to eat steak my whole career. Unfortunately, starting as a dishwasher, I could only afford free potatoes and $5 beef dip. But I knew once I got to be a busboy at the very least, I could afford those $8 sirloins. And so that was very exciting for me. But it really grew from there. I think through university, I was always, you know how university barbecues tend to be your hamburgers and hot dogs affair. Well, I was the type of person who would bring the smoker down to the beach and I'd throw on pulled pork or a beef brisket and cook something over 12 hours for many people. So that was just kind of what it is that I love to do with food. And when it comes to traveling as well, I always traveled for food. I always stayed at the cheapest places and ate as best as I could. So food for me has always been really important, more so on the cooking and eating end than on the growing end, for example. When I moved up north in 2011 to the Yukon, that was when kind of my perspectives changed a little bit. And I lived in a small community about 5 hours from Whitehorse, and not having access to fresh food, fresh produce and stuff like that was quite challenging for a lot of times. I know previously it sounded like I was a meatitarian eating steak and pulled pork and beef brisket all the time, which I was. But moving up north really made me appreciate the value of fresh produce and fresh vegetables every now and then. So I found that challenging, and it made me really appreciate food a lot more. Fast forward a couple of years, and I met my partner Jessica in Mexico, and she really enjoys growing food and thinking about food and a little bit of farming. So she kind of also helped me change my perspective and looking more at how people grow food. And it just made me open my eyes that locally grown, fresh, organic produce and food, the quality of the ingredients that goes into it really makes anything you cook taste much better. So that's where we started going to farmers markets more often, buying more locally produced food. And that is actually where I met Michael and Mary Ev for the first time in the summer of 2019 when they were at the farmers market. And we probably gave them the strangest request they ever heard. When we asked them for as many chicken hearts as we could possibly get from them. So, and they kindly obliged. They said, yeah, we could definitely give you lots of chicken hearts.
Okay, I had this low iron level, and so that the doctor recommended I eat the giblets, it's called. So it's not for some weird thing.
So we visited their farm. We got to meet them a little bit more, get to know them a little bit better. And then come 2020, when the pandemic hit, that made me really rethink what it was that I wanted to do with my career and kind of shift my focus from kind of more commercial and editorial style photography to do more documentary work and tell more stories that could actually make an impact in this world. I went to university for political science, and I knew that that was always kind of my goal. I never really wanted to work for the man, so to speak. So I kind of went back to my roots and trying to tell more documentary style stories. And knowing I love food, and we had this, and the problem going on with food security at the time with grocery store shelves going empty, I started calling around to different farmers and seeing what their thing was. So I called Michael, and he mentioned that they were actually getting lots of calls, lots of people looking for their eggs, lots of people looking for fresh food. And I thought this was a really interesting possible story angle. that they're actually seeing an increase in the amount of people coming to them. So we went through with it. I also reached out to Meredith Funston, who I had done a little bit of video work with before, to get a little bit of perspective from like a food security perspective, as well as Chad Keeley with the Wildsight food security coordinator, to kind of give me a little bit more background. And I initially wanted to discuss the concept of food security as a whole. But what I learned through one of the things I discovered through the process of making the film was the concept of food literacy and how important it is to know about where our food comes from, but also how important it is to know about growing food.
And cooking food.
And cooking food. Meredith really struck that home in one of the quotes in the film. I won't share the quote here because you're going to hear it in the film, but that was something that really stuck with me.
Don't give away too much.
Yeah. So I found a quote that actually sums this up quite nicely from a farmer's perspective. I read this in BC Business News the other day.
Almost 500.
Okay. Farmers need to be a climatologist, meteorologist, veterinarian, seed expert, soil expert, carpenter, engineer, and a mechanic. There's no clear path to that depth of knowledge. And thinking about this, that really sums up, I think, a lot of the farmer's perspective and how much they actually need to know. So the overall theme of this film actually wound up being about learning and passing on that knowledge to future generations so that we always do have good food to eat, not just any food mass produced on big farms. So to me, that really sums up why I chose to pursue this film, how I met Michael and Mariev, and I am very grateful for their participation in this film. I know sometimes it can feel like a hassle where I'm asking, can I come over this day? Can I come over this day? What are you doing? They were super kind with me, opening up their house, offering us food, offering us plants. They're just both super generous, super kind people. I hope for anybody in Kimberley and Cranbrook who goes out to the farmers markets to be able to meet them, say hi, learn a little bit more about them as well, because what they are doing is super important for our community, for our communities. And I chose Michael as well has that big picture understanding of why it is very important as well. And that's one of the things that I really like about them as well, is they're very family oriented, but they also understand the big picture. So that's my story there.
Just to start off with our Q&A, I'd love to ask you a question, Michael. And the question is, what was it like for you and your family to be filmed throughout the process of making this documentary?
There we go. Well, it was cool to be on the other side of the camera. It was sometimes taking pictures of people, you could sense impatience, and Mark was very easy to be on the other side of the camera and you know, just sit back for the ride for once. So yeah, it was great. Jessica came by sometimes, and you know, both of them are such nice people. It was easy to open up to them.
Wonderful. That's so wonderful to hear. I want to hear a little bit more about what else you'd like to do with your farm, and if you have some things that you have in mind for the future of the farm that maybe didn't come up in the film that you'd like to share with us.
Well, I could say that the turmeric and the ginger didn't work out too well. So we're still trying. I'm also experimenting a little bit more with melons this year, and we're putting in 65 of them, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know if we'll see. It all depends on the weather and how warm it is and how warm the nights are. For the future, the long term, it'd be pretty nice to have another tunnel. We're thinking of tunneling our raspberries because there's a good month of time where, due to that first frost that everybody gets in September, that we lose a lot of raspberries to that, and they'd keep going. Most of the future thoughts for us right now, you know, five years from now, is just making more efficient what we already do, getting more out of each, square foot of land, understanding my pests and my problems a little bit more, and figuring other creative ways to solve them. Because a lot of farming, I suppose you could say this for anything, is you solve a problem, you instantly create another one. So we're whacking down all the moles as we go, and we're approaching a better balance. So those are the biggest things off the top of my head that we'd like to improve.
Well, as a novice gardener over here, I appreciate the knocking the moles down. I think I have more moles than I have successful gardens so far, but I appreciate it as a very experimental process to come up with what works best. And I'm very much curious to see what happens with your melons.
Yeah, I'll let you know. And the thing too about the experimental and the learning curve with farming, which is kind of hard, is you have one season and then you have another season. And so you have to be good at taking notes and remembering what you've done. And I'm not very diligent about that. I've never been the diary kind of person, kind of the seat of my pants kind of way, feeling things through. And that doesn't always work. You need to be diligent about writing down what you've learned and when, and then you try it again the next year. And hopefully after 10 years, you realize, oh yeah, that's kind of what I needed to do.
Wonderful. And thanks for that. It's almost a tip. I'm hearing a tip in there for all of our aspiring gardeners who are joining us tonight, that maybe writing some things down as you go along is a helpful thing to do. I've just seen, Michael, a question come through, or some comments come through rather, in the chat. A beautiful video, and most importantly, delicious fresh food. So much passion in your work. And a thank you from David Humphrey for the video and for us hosting it. Thanks for that, David. I'm going to open the floor up now and see if anybody has some questions. We'll take 2 or 3 questions from the audience, and then we will ask Mark a question or two. Go ahead, Keith.
Congratulations, Mark. That was really a great video. Congratulations to Michael as well. You're sort of behind the scenes. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the history of agriculture. Cranbrook was actually founded on the concept of Kootenai orchards, which was, Cranbrook was promoted as the next hot growing spot in Western Canada. But I'm just wondering, it seems to go in cycles, because when I was a kid, gardening was a huge deal, and then it just sort of went out of fashion, and now it seems to be coming back strong. We had a tremendous industry in the Kootenays. The Doukhobors in the West Kootenays had a thriving agricultural operation and so forth. Why do you think it goes in such drastic cycles, and what's prompting it to come back?
Michael, I think that would be a great question for you to answer. I think you have a bigger perspective on this than I do, so I'll let you handle that one.
I'm going to be boring and say I've thought about this, and I don't really have an answer. I think in human nature, we tend to be whimsical and we react, and it's like a pendulum, and it goes back and forth. I mean, I don't know, I'm Gen X. In my generation, my grandparents' generation, they had their victory gardens, right? And we grew up learning a lot from them, but then, people could kind of get complacent and allow, take things for granted again. And I suppose maybe this pandemic is that lesson, seeing that everybody's like, hey, I want to, if they're afraid of getting enough toilet paper, if they weren't afraid of getting that, then they'll try to find, like, oh my goodness, everybody's going to buy eggs. I remember going to Ceylon and seeing no eggs on the shelf too. So, I mean, those are my best thoughts, and I really don't have anything more articulate to say about that. But Does Wayne have a suggestion or?
Hi, thank you. That was a great video, and thank you, Michael, for agreeing to be part of the stars of the show. A comment and then a question. In 2018, I was member of parliament and I had the opportunity to travel around the Kootenays attending farmers markets because I was promoting my national local food day bill. So I attended about 12 markets. And for those of you who are watching this today, if you're looking for a great summer vacation opportunity, you should travel the Kootenays and plan your trips around visiting farmers markets in each of these communities. Along with it, many of them now have great breweries, a few wineries, some distilleries. So you don't have to go very far from home to have really quite an excellent vacation this summer. So something to think about. Michael, question for you. Have you thought about Creston cherries and peaches and whether we're reaching it? And I mean, climate change is, well, it's way too hot for this part of June, but looking ahead to different kinds of crops, do you think it will be possible to grow Creston cherries and Creston peaches and perhaps grapes so we can get a winery going here in Cranbrook in the East Kootenay?
Oh yeah, of course I've thought about that. Not cherries per se though. Maria, she'd love to grow cherries. I just don't want to deal with the birds and everything that goes with it. But you know, fair enough. I for the climate change part, I think we're very dry here, and that our biggest challenge here in where we are in Cranbrook is the frost. Really late frost in the spring and really early frost in the fall. And if you have dry mountain air, it's a tough thing. Like what we've heard and read is like it makes more extreme weather. But we are definitely warming up here, and I do feel like I can get. It's more like apricots and things that they get zapped by frost fairly late. Their blossoms, they blossom too early and then they get zapped, and that's it. I'm getting more apricots every year, more reliably. But when it comes to something growing peaches, that might be pushing it. Maybe 15 years down the road, I don't know. As far as me trying to compete with Creston for that, I would rather do something I know I can get stuff like raspberries. There are some wonderful varieties of raspberries, primocane varieties, which are, you know, first year bush berries, and they're bigger and they're sweeter. And those are the ones that if we can get later frost in the fall, I can get more berries out of, and they can get bigger and sweeter and juicier. So that's kind of more what I'm focusing on. We can grow cherries here, sour cherries and sweet cherries alike. It's just that growing it consistently and the quantities you can get in Creston, probably not. They also have the factor of the lake. It's a lower valley, and they've got this lake with this climate that's more stable. Like it's only a couple degrees at night, but that really makes a difference, right? So I wish I could. I won't go on for too long about this, but as far as the varieties of apples and other things that we put in the ground, our perennials, I do hedge my bets. I put in things that aren't supposed to be here, and they end up doing well, just because they end up doing well. Or I'm just hoping to get lemonade out of lemons in the future, and having a variety that I can grow. It's already in the ground, right?
Thank you so much, Wayne, for that question. And Michael, it's inspiring to hear you talk about how important it is to just try, growing something and seeing what happens. And maybe, who knows, we will find that magical citrus fruit that will grow here, or there is a peach variety that we can come up with even to grow in this area. I think it sounds more and more like the potential for producing great quantities of locally grown food in all different climates and parts of Canada is much more than we maybe think it is. and it's just a matter of getting out there and giving it a go. So thanks for giving us a bit of that inspiration. I'd love to ask a question of you, Mark, if we can flip to the other side. What was it like for you creating this film, it being a little bit different than what you'd worked on before?
Yeah, the process for me was quite a bit of a challenge, because this is really my first project of the type, my first full documentary film. And it really taught me a lot about not just farming, but also filmmaking, coming up with a clear pen, and how plans change, and how sometimes you have to go with the flow, and sometimes how you have to stick with an idea that you began with. This one really did change partway through the editing process, really, when I was realizing what I felt was maybe a stronger angle to tell, going with that learning perspective, because I've watched a good number of documentaries on food and farming, and from what I remember, I don't recall very much talking about the actual learning process and passing down the knowledge. So I felt that was potentially a unique aspect to bring to the filming. So that's, for me, where I felt there was challenge and opportunity in learning. So
thank you. And I guess I want to dovetail off of that with a follow-up question. In terms of what you hope to inspire with this film, and I mean that in the most practical sense, so not just a theoretical, like, oh, I hope I inspire more people to grow, but is there anything really tangible that you can tell us? Some concrete, if you could dream big, what would you hope this film would help local growers, or maybe those who don't grow yet, to do in a practical sense?
I know there's a lot of people out there like me who don't really have either the time or the interest to put their hands in the ground and actually grow themselves. So for the people that do have that interest, awesome, keep doing it, I love it. But I really do want people to think about the long-term consequences of our actions of buying mass-produced food from the grocery store, food that's shipped in from overseas. These are things that have consequences not only to our individual economies in our towns, but also to our food security and also to the farmers. And I know that we can't grow everything here, and we can't have everything here accessible locally all year round. But there's solutions to these things that are coming. There's ways that we can start to build better, sustainable, long-term food economies. And that is really what I hope that we can work towards. And it starts with education and understanding the value and the importance of healthy, locally grown food in our lives. So,
thank you, Mark. I see that Keith has a follow-up to that. Go ahead, Keith.
Good. Mark, I just wondered, how long did you work on the film, and what are your future plans? Is this documentary sort of a launching pad for more projects?
Thanks for the question, Keith. I started the project back in end of May last year. We finished filming September or October. I think we did about 10 shoot days, so it wasn't like nonstop. And then it took me until probably February to finish editing the film. It took me a bit of a process for it, going back and forth between different options and things like that. So yeah, it was quite a long process. And then we were trying to determine when exactly we wanted to launch the film. And by the time February came around, we're thinking, well, we might as well wait until growing season comes back, and maybe we can capitalize on the renewed interest in getting back out there with the growing. So,
But what is it that you plan on doing?
oh, and future plans. Yeah, we have a number of different documentary projects in the work here, and then working with other nonprofits, doing some videos for them as well. So yeah, we run into a very busy time right now. We got lots going on. Stay tuned for quite a bit going on.
But they're all like with a social aspect.
Yeah, most of it is with social aspects. Yeah, so.
And they're local.
And
films.
environmental.
Yeah, and they're about the kidneys, but we just haven't. We'll let you know in time. Thanks for the interest. Yeah.
Can I ask? Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Michael. I guess my interest is you've provided a very rich experience for your children, Michael, and your wife. And also, I'm curious for your perspective on that, and then back to Mark. did you do any interviews with the kids, and what did you get out of it?
I didn't do any interviews with the kids. We just kind of like talked with them when we were just in the middle of filming and small things like that. But really, what for the kids, I wanted to capture the interactions with the parents and those little snippets of them learning and understanding. Yeah, maybe next time I will interview the kids. That'd be cute.
What about when you were at the farmers market and the kids were there with their parents? Did you see them interacting with members of the public, that kind of thing?
Oh.
They do sometimes, yeah. I think a lot of times they're kind of off. The nice thing about Kimberley is it's super safe town, so they kind of run all over the town a little bit with their other friends and things like that. So it's yeah, they're around. Sometimes they're with Michael and Mary-Ev, sometimes they're off and about. So, but yeah, it's great to see that they are actively involved in what it is that Michael and Mary-Ev do as well. They seem super interested in it, hands in the dirt. I remember when I was 7 or 9, I had no interest being in the kitchen with my parents, learning how to cook with my mom. So it's good to see that they help out around in the house and they like it. So
thank you.
Wonderful.
Do you have anything to add, Michael?
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
They kind of just take off in little gangs at the market. And we have expectations for them that we try to keep realistic. You know, they got their little things they try to make money on. Now Anna sold, what'd you sell? Patty pans. And sells them at the market there, and Adley sells zinnias and cut flowers. And you know, they made money. They learned about profit, and they learned about what's worth their time and what they enjoy doing. And then off they go, take off with their friends, and sometimes don't even know the names of them. And it's just a great little community to do that in. And Cranbrook has a similar vibe too, and something we enjoy and something that all kids need.
Thank you.
Eliana, do you want to say what you enjoy the most about the farm?
Come on.
What you like to eat the best? Nothing? Salad?
no.
Well, she's stealing salad from the greenhouse today, so.
Well, I just don't like the dressing.
Oh, you don't like the dressing. Okay.
Just before we wind down here, as we approach the close of our Q&A and our conversation tonight, I am curious, and this could be open for discussion with Mark or Michael, and anyone else that wants to join in. How do we go forward from here? Does anyone have ideas about how we can keep building these connections between our local growers and producers? It's a really live topic, and I think it's a really important one. And I would just love to spark a conversation around ideas.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Keith.
you know, I think the success is in being a niche and finding that niche and specializing in it. I mean, I'm no gardener or farmer or whatever, but I just know that you have to be unique and you have to be able to do something that the grocery stores can't do, or you have to differentiate yourself. And I just see the evidence of that at our farmers markets, and that's tremendous. That, you know, these families are growing things, are investing time and effort into the support of the community, and I think that's really great. And just being personable. My wife loves the chickens that she buys at what is it, the Apple Quill. And to give you one example, she went there without her wallet and to pick up her chickens, and Michael and his wife were kindly enough to say, "Oh, don't worry about it, just send us an e-transfer." So, you know, that to me is showing a real part of the community, and I think that's really the important connection that micro farmers or you know, small operators bring to the equation.
as other people are thinking about their answers, I wanted to ask Michael if you would be able to share. We've been sharing some links in the chat for Wildsight and for Mark's website. I would love to share your website as well. If you'd like to pop it in there. I'm sure that everyone, now that we've learned all about your farm, wants to be able to eat the delicious things that you're making there.
Oh dear. We Maria, I've heard the question. We don't have a website yet. We've spent so much time with our hands in the ground that I haven't had a chance to, and I promise you, everybody, I'll have a website up. I just opened an Instagram account last week, and I'm posting stuff. I'm making sure they're nice pictures, and it's making sure it's not boring. I'm trying to do one thing a day, and I post stuff about what we do and stages of our plants, and yeah, you should go there. I could send a link for that. So if you guys are in Instagram, but I will have a proper website soon, because that's kind of more my leanings. I like kind of having a place that you can curate and people can look at. And I promise I'll have that up at some point this year.
I've just put your Instagram in the chat, so if anybody wants to check out the Instagram, you can go to the chat now, and it's the most recent link posted. Thanks for sharing that, Michael.
All right. Are there any final thoughts, comments that folks want to make before we wind down our conversation tonight?
There's a lot more information out there now in terms of publications that list all the farmers markets around the Kootenays, for example, other ones on breweries and other libations that you can pick up. It's a very important part of the economy now. I know the one in Cranbrook here, I heard a number of years ago, was probably generating close to $1 million a year for local produce, for keeping, really important farmers continuing to farm. And when you look ahead, it's also the #1 social gathering place in Cranbrook now in the summertime. And many of you, and I'm sure Michael, you see this as well, have got regular customers that come to you virtually every week. And a lot of the stalls, at least I know in Cranbrook, sell out really early. So it's a growing success, no pun intended, and I think it'll only get better. But because you produce such quality products, you develop your very own fan club that will keep coming back to you every week. And that's good for you, and it's good for the people who are buying from you as well.
Well said, Wayne. Thank you for that. And I did see a question come through, Natalie. Jim Webster's asked, is apple quill food only available at the farmers markets? Michael or Maria?
No, it's not. We also have it at another local place. It's Meat Matters, which is in Marysville. We also have it at Bread and Butter, which is a, okay, you need to stop squiggling. That's the bread place in by where Delights, yes. Yeah. It's right there at the intersection, the one stoplight in Kimberley. So we sell our eggs there, duck and chicken eggs. And it's got great bread too.
We do farm gate sales too.
We do farm gate sales as well. Yeah. So if you want to order a bunch of birds, ducks or chickens, you just send us a text or call, and you can drop by and pick them up when they're available.
Thank you, Michael. That's wonderful. Natalie, just noticing the time here, I'll pass it back to you. And thank you so much for all the wonderful questions we've had. Some thank yous are coming through the chat, and I will send it back over to you now, Natalie, to wrap things up.
Great, thanks so much. I am gonna, Michael, you mentioned texting and calling, but I don't think anybody has your phone number. Would you like to share that in the chat so people, if they want to call you to get food, or is that something that they can message you on Instagram about?
Let's do the phone thing for now. I'm still new to Instagram. I'll get there.
Also, just while Michael's inserting that, I just want to mention a little farther up in the chat, folks might have noticed that I inserted a couple of links for Wildsight Kimberley Cranbrook because we are running bi-weekly garden workshops. So if you're inspired to come and learn a little bit more, the workshops do coincide with the gardening and the growing season. And so there's different workshops depending on the time of the season and different growing techniques. So you're welcome to check out that link as well as engage with our Backyard Farmers pilot project. And we just got funding for that this year, where we'll be growing in people's backyard. So I did see someone in the chat mention she'd love to grow tomatoes, looking for suggestions. The Backyard Farmers pilot is a great opportunity to engage with us, and we would actually be working with you in your yard to help you grow food and possibly grow a little bit of extra food to give back to the community. So feel free to check out that link as well, and then you can connect with us and volunteer or even become a backyard farmer. Thanks.
Okay, so with all this said, I am going to take some of those links and I will send it to everybody who registered through our website so that you'll be able to find Mark's information, Michael's, as well as the Kimberley Cranbrook Wildsight projects. So never fear if you lose the chat. I'll be sending an email out tomorrow with all that information. And with that being said, thank you so much everybody for showing up tonight, to Mark and Michael for sharing your film and also for answering all of our questions about it. Thanks everybody for turning out tonight.
Wonderful, and we hope to see everybody at the first farmers market in Kimberley. If you're not already going to the Cranbrook Farmers Market, it is happening already. Quill will be there, and the first market in Kimberley starts on Thursday, June 17th. So that's coming pretty quickly. Mark it on your calendars, and we hope to see you there. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, everybody.